Not sure about some of you folks, but very few people remember the Motorola DROID MAXX because it came out back in 2013 and it's part of 3 brand new droids at the time: the DROID Ultra, the DROID Mini, and of course the DROID MAXX. Then last year we had the DROID Turbo, which really impressed us for the fact that it had a very long-lasting battery and was the only new droid that was released. This year, we have 2 new droids, the DROID Turbo 2, which is a high-spec successor to last year's model, and now you have the DROID MAXX 2, which is basically a variant of the Moto X Play. So how can it stand out? Hey guys, John V from PhoneArena here. You're watching our video review of the Motorola DROID MAXX 2. Already, the DROID Turbo 2 has above average battery life, but the DROID MAXX 2 surpasses it. It offers incredible battery life actually, one of the longest lasting phones out there, and that's pretty surprising considering we have a smaller cell 36 milliamp hour battery inside of this phone. And with that, we're able to get by more than 2 days of normal usage out of it, which is pretty impressive on its own. But that's further clarified by our battery benchmark test, where it meets a mark of 11 hours and 33 minutes, easily surpassing the DROID Turbo 2 and the DROID Turbo at the same time. It's actually the best, longest lasting Motorola phone we've come across. Unfortunately, there is no wireless charging with this one, but it's still reasonably fast at 105 minutes from 0 to 100%. All told, if you're all about battery life, you're definitely going to get it here with the DROID MAXX 2. Another really outstanding quality about the DROID MAXX 2 is its $384 starting cost. It's quite easy on the pockets, a lot better than the $624 cost of the DROID Turbo 2. But of course, the design is clearly subdued. You don't have things like the Moto Maker process, so you can't customize design, but it does have a removable cover here in the back, so you can mix it up with different colors. But the handset by itself is available in either black or white, and that's it. It follows in the same design language we've been seeing. It has more of a pronounced curve with its casing. It's slightly smaller, more compact than the DROID Turbo. Of course, its cost is indicative of its subdued design, but at least still has the same water-repellent construction, so it's safeguarded against splashes or even minor things like that. Don't count on its display either, despite the fact that you have that shatter shield display of the DROID Turbo 2. What we have here in the DROID MAXX 2 is a slightly larger 5.5-inch 1920 by 1080 TFT screen with Gorilla Glass 3. Now it has some surprises on its own. Of course, details are good, it's more than sufficient, you have a generous amount of real estate to deal with. However though, it has an extremely cold color temperature of 8200 Kelvin, which is very far off from the ideal reference value of 6500 Kelvin. And with that, you do notice more of a bluish tinge with the panel. And colors in the sRGB color spectrum chart are not totally accurate, but it's not overblown either. The colors magenta and greens are heavily influenced by blues, but we have to applaud Motorola because this is the brightest screen they've come out with. And actually, the brightest screen in an Android phone we've come across. Now on the manual setting, it could jump up to as high as 635 nits, but when you place it in automatic mode and you view it outside, it jumps up to 772 nits, which is just outstanding. So it's easily visible in sunlight. There isn't really anything new with the experience here. It's the same thing we saw with the DROID Turbo 2. So it's running a slightly customized Android 5.1.1 Lollipop experience. You can see that in the apps panel, it has a different arrangement from a stock experience. You have slightly larger icons too, and you have that usual Droid widget on the home screen for the time, date, the weather, and also the battery level here. Now, just like the DROID Turbo 2, it does come full of bloatware from Verizon. You have the usual Verizon branded applications, in addition to some of those time-killing games you have. But it still has the usual Motorola enhancements that make it very meaningful. You have things like Moto Actions, Moto Assist, Moto Display, and Moto Voice, and they all help to actually make the experience straightforward and not really redundant. Now, it doesn't get greeted to the same chopping gesture we saw with the DROID Turbo 2 turn on the flash, but if you twist it twice, you still can jump right into the camera right there. It's powered by the Snapdragon 615 chipset paired with 2 GB of RAM. Now that's pretty good when it comes to baseline operations, so navigating across the UI is no problem at all. But its Adreno 405 GPU just isn't equipped to handle gaming. It's more choppy with its performance. For a mid-ranger, it's pretty satisfying that the Droid MAXX 2 has the same camera hardware as the Droid Turbo 2. You have a 21 megapixel Sony IMX230 CMOS sensor in the back that's paired with an f2.0 aperture lens. You have face detection autofocus, a dual LED flash, and up to 1080p video capture. While in the front, you have a 5 megapixel camera. The UI itself, no different. It's the same simplistic, straightforward one that we've seen in the Moto X Pure Edition, in the Droid Turbo 2. It's very light with its shooting mode, and there isn't no manual controls, but at least it's straightforward. The quality, not surprisingly, is the same as the Droid Turbo 2. You get good details capture when the conditions are ideal, though colors seem to be just a little bit more saturated this time, but just a little bit. Fortunately though, it kind of disappoints with its panoramic quality. It just doesn't have enough detail in the shots. And its low lighting performance is also the same. It's pretty soft tone with some duller looking colors. The 1080p capture is also on the softer side with its details. It lacks that sharpness, and you also tend to have some hissy audio recording. Now for the Motorola, it's a good solid effort on their part, but it's still lagging behind the competition. Call quality is pretty average. There's nothing really great about it, nor is it really terrible. You get good volume through the speakers, both the earpiece and the speakerphone. The speakerphone has a lot of substance because it pumps out 75.5 decibels of power, which is pretty strong, the same as the Droid Turbo 2. However, voices through the earpiece tend to sound a little bit distorted. You notice just a more crackly tone to them. Luckily, that's not a problem the other end of the line because voices come out pretty clear and concise. If you're that kind of person that constantly complains about not having enough battery with your phone, the Droid MAXX 2 definitely solves that. It's by far the longest lasting phone out of Motorola's camp and one of the best this year that we've seen. And considering that it's only $384 for an outright cost, that's pretty valuable considering longevity in the battery life department. It offers good value. A lot easier on the pockets than the $624 cost of the Droid Turbo 2, so it's good justification basically. However, when you look at that price point around the $400 range, there are some other phones that offer a compelling package as well. They might not have as long-lasting battery life, but they offer a more well-rounded appeal from the designs, their camera performance, and even their experiences. One of those options is undoubtedly going to be the Moto X Pure Edition, which is only $400, which is similar to this handset, and with that you get a highly customizable design paired with a rich spec sheet. It makes for a compelling offering. So if you're really diehard about battery life, you might want to go with the Droid MAXX 2. If not, there are plenty of other options to choose from.